Greetings, traveler. Have you ever played a game where, along the progress of the main storyline, the game offers some random upgrades? Now, sometimes this can be a very engaging mechanic, making you wonder about all the possibilities of choosing these rewards or whether you want to use them or not. And other times, it's just not as interesting. All the choices that the game gives you for random rewards are seen as meaningless and they somehow don't seem very engaging. Today, what I want to do is use a very old game to illustrate how this can be made into a fun mechanic, and it can be made into something that players would love to engage in. So we're going to jump into Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, a game from way back in the day. And sorry for the weird layout on the screen. Getting an old game like this to even run is a bit of a challenge in itself, but it seems we have it working here. So today what I want to do is use this game as a visual example. If you haven't played this game, don't worry about it, because I will give a brief explanation about what this game is, what's the basic system of the random upgrades in this game, and how we can use this as a basis for a simple template when designing our own video games, specifically when it comes to random upgrades. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years now. I've been playing video games ever since I can remember, basically, and this is a game I used to play when I was a kid a lot. I like this game so much that I used to install it, finish it, and uninstall it once every 6 months because I enjoyed it so much. And one of the things I enjoyed so much was a random upgrade system. So to understand that, let's briefly talk about how this game works in general, so even if you haven't played it, you have a general idea. This is simply a racing game, so the player gets to pick between all these racers and their vehicles, and you simply do races in them. After every race, the game offers you the choice to either upgrade or keep what you have components-wise for your vehicle. And together with being a good racer, the game makes a point of also managing your vehicle along the progress of the tournament. So perhaps in the beginning of the tournament, your vehicle is not the best, but by using your winnings in the races and picking the right parts for upgrades and being more calculated and more clever, I suppose, with what upgrades you choose, you can end up having very large performance upgrades for your vehicle, and just get all the more of a boost as you're playing the tournament. So here I am somewhere in the middle of a tournament, and the game, since we are between races, will typically give me the choice of going to the next race, just looking at my vehicle, looking at what I have installed already, buy parts from the shop, and this is an important part of this process. So the shop always offers some stock parts that are in perfect condition. And finally, what I found most interesting about this upgrade system, the junkyard. So what's the difference between the junkyard and the parts, the normal parts shop, is that the junkyard will offer often very good components, but they're damaged. So because they're damaged, not only they perform not at their 100%, but also you need to repair them yourself if you want to get them to full performance. And that's where the pit droids system comes in as well, but that goes beyond the scope of today's topic, so we can explore it in another video if you guys are interested. So anyway, what's so interesting about the junkyard? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the vehicle upgrades. The upgrades themselves don't make a lot of sense, since they're all parts that are basically imagined for these crazy vehicles. So there's a repulsor grip and a Vectrojet and whatever. It doesn't matter. All that matters is when you highlight each piece, you see how much it improves your performance by. So right now I'm highlighting this second piece here, and it shows me that this improves my turning by so much. So if this piece, and also this green bar here means that this piece is at full health. So if this piece was damaged, let's say, and it was down to 50%, then the performance boost I would get out of this piece would be only 50%. That's how the basic system works. The way droids come into this situation is that they help repair the pieces that you have on your vehicle. Either you bought them in a damaged state or you damaged them during the race, and the whole minigame of the droids is to strategically select what you want to spend your time repairing between the races. But yeah, that's a whole other system. So of course, you want to get the best parts possible. So when you buy parts, you always get them in perfect state. And here Watto is offering you a bunch of parts, so you can see when you cycle through them how much of an upgrade you'll be getting. And if you inspect one of them more closely, you'll see how much it costs and how it compares to your current thing. And if you replace your current thing for this upgrade, what's the adjusted price and all that. So that's a normal shop, and some good choices are always available here, but because these parts are sold at maximum health, they're usually pretty expensive. And now we see why the junkyard is so interesting, because here we can find parts that are damaged, and because they're damaged, they are sold with a discount rather. So you can see the different parts that are available here, and you see how much of a boost you'll get from getting them. But the less they are damaged, the more they're close to the original price. So here what you want to do is perhaps buy something that's very damaged, but it's still an upgrade performance-wise, and maybe repair it over time with your droids without having to essentially pay the full price for it. So you'll get the full price piece maybe 2 or 3 races down the line after your droids have repaired it. And this is where the random upgrade system comes in, because all these parts that give you some upgrades but are damaged are basically random. So you don't know for sure every time you finish a race if you will still find the same parts here in the junkyard, or it will be something else. So there's very much an opportunity cost here, where you have to choose rather whether you want to take the plunge and buy this piece and get the upgrade out of it, or you want to wait one race and see what other pieces you'll find here in the shop. So we could keep on talking about this game forever, but I know some people haven't played this, and I know you, Traveler, are interested in the basic recipe that outlines how this random upgrade system is so interesting and so relevant always, and how could you use not this system specifically, but a random upgrade system to keep players engaged between sessions, or between gameplays, or between races if your game is racing, or between adventures if your game has an adventure bit and a returning back to base and relaxing and planning again bit, and so on. So for this system, I identified 3 components that I found that when I use them myself, this random upgrade system adds to the game rather than detracting from it. And here you might be thinking, well, of course it's going to add to the game. Any potential upgrade is inherently interesting to the players, right? Well, yeah, that's a general idea, but the way I found that other games do it, and it's not as interesting, is when it is too easy to decide if an upgrade is something you should get or not. So if the upgrade is so good that you would always get it, then that's not much of a choice. If you can get it, you must get it. If on the other hand, the upgrades are completely randomly generated, and let's say you have 3 choices of random upgrades to pick and they're all bad picks, then again, there's no fun in that system. There's no interesting choices to make. You just seem disappointed because you didn't get to make any interesting decisions. So In this system, for example, perhaps you'll take a look around all the different parts and eventually you will decide not to get any of them. But still, you had to consider the options, so you made a choice whether you want to invest in one of them or not. If all these parts were always terrible, technically you're still making a choice, but it isn't much of a choice because you wouldn't buy these parts anyway because it would never make sense, basically. So that's the hard way of approaching this topic, just randomly generating upgrades and see what the player wants to invest in. The easy way of implementing a system like that always gives interesting options to the players, has these three components. So first of all, there is an alternative. So before we even talk about the random upgrades, there is something standard, something basic that the player can fall back to. So in this case, this game does this through the parts shop. So even if the junkyard didn't exist, then you could still look at these parts in the normal parts shop and still make some interesting choices. So do I want to go for the cheap and small performance boost part, or do I want to go for the more expensive, more performance boost part? And if I spend all this money in this, then I wouldn't have enough money to get another upgrade, for example. So that's an interesting choice all on its own. And the game already gives you plenty of choice in the standard parts shop. So when you get to the junkyard, typically you get this excitement, right? That you might find a diamond in the rough sort of item, something that's worth way more, but because it's damaged right now, it's sold for very cheap. But you know you can repair it with your droids. So in a few races time, you'll get the value without paying the price. So that's the crazy bargain, the great junkyard find kind of feeling that you can get as a player. So the second component here is that the upgrades themselves in the random selection, they are interesting on their own. And the way this game does it is by telling you that, look, this part, for example, even though it's damaged, it would still offer you a performance upgrade even in its damaged state. So it's not that all damaged parts will be worse than what you have already. But because this is already an interesting choice, even though it's damaged, it makes you pause for a moment and make a conscious decision of whether you want to go for this or not. And that creates an interesting choice. When you make that choice consciously, you choose to skip it or you choose to get it after all because it's still an upgrade despite the damage, that makes you feel like you made a good investment. And everybody feels good making a good investment because investments are inherently risky. So what that means for this framework is that when we're offering these random upgrades, yes, they're random, so they're different every time and the player doesn't know what they're going to get. And perhaps there's even a mathematical randomness element involved in these upgrades. So for example, me as a player playing this game, I don't know if these upgrades are set somewhere in the database of the game to appear at a certain rhythm. So on the first race, there's these random upgrades, and on the second race, there's this other set of random upgrades, or whether the game truly randomly generates all these and it gets the player to pick. I think it truly randomly generates them, but yeah, I haven't confirmed that, but it at least feels this way. So making sure, that's the second step, making sure that whatever upgrades exist in the system, they at least pose one interesting, realistic option for the player to consider, whether the player chooses to go with it or not. And finally, I think the third element that this kind of system needs is the opportunity cost of actually not buying anything. The way that is represented here in this game is, oh no, I started the race. Anyway, so the way that's represented here is, if I quit the race, yeah, that's gonna mark my progress. Oh well. So the way that's represented here is you look at the parts shop and then you look at the junkyard and you think, you know what, all these options are good, but I would rather keep my money and see if there's something better next race around. And that needs to be a realistic choice. So how does this game make this a realistic choice? The parts shop is what puts that choice in your mind going through the races. You know that most of the parts in the parts shop are still going to be there next race. So if you know you win X money per race on average, then you know it's going to take you 2 races or 3 races or 1 race to afford that part you want, even if it's expensive. So that is always plan C, essentially. So if your plan A is see if there's anything interesting in the junkyard, and plan B is see if there's anything interesting in the parts shop, even though you'll be paying premium price, then plan C is not to buy anything, and next race around either go for a part that you couldn't afford before but you can afford now in the parts shop, or check the junkyard again and see if you can find something even better there. And these choices stay alive as you play through the game. There's never a point in the game where you find yourself not wanting to look at the parts shop or the junkyard because you don't want to upgrade your vehicle anymore. You always want to upgrade your vehicle. Even if it's the last race of the championship, it's just going to make your race all the more easier. It's going to make you all the more faster. So if you can make an upgrade, you always want to make it. And I think that's the final key piece missing to make all these choices seem viable and seem worth considering by the players. So to recap it, the first element is to make sure that there's a basic choice for the player. In this case, it's the part shop. In your game, it might be a merchant that's always there, or some upgrade that's always available if the player chooses not to select any of the random rewards, not to take any of these, I suppose, random side quests. And the part random here is really important because the player needs to know that part of the possible upgrades are set in the game and they're going to be there long term, and part of them are ephemeral. So they're always there, they're only there now. And if the player doesn't make the choice this time, visiting the shop or the merchant or the quest panel or the visiting characters or whatever, then when he goes away from that screen, then those choices will also go away, and that makes it exciting to grab them while they're still there, essentially. So first element is the upgrades always being there in a static shop. Second element is the random upgrades being there, but also being viable. So not always being better than the standard upgrades, not being so random that it's possible that all of them are horrible and the player would not even want to consider them. They need to offer some base value. Otherwise, the player will learn over time that this whole random thing is not worth doing, and he will stop checking this random panel. And finally, making it still worth it to hold on to your resources, hold on to your money, even if you don't find anything interesting, or even if you find something interesting and you think, yeah, that's technically an upgrade, but it's such a small upgrade, I would rather wait next turn or next race or next adventure or something like that to come back and use the money that I think I'm going to have at that point. Given my track record up to now, I gain X money per adventure. Use that money that I predict I will have to either buy a part that I already know will exist then in the standard shop, and also give a quick look at the random upgrades and see if by any chance there's something interesting there. So to conclude, these are the 3 elements that I found make this random upgrade system very interesting to engage with. Whether you choose to go for the random upgrades, go for the standard upgrades, or hold on to your money and decide if you want to use that money later on to get something even better. It always makes this a nice break from the time you spend racing or adventuring or hunting monsters. And it's something to look forward to when you come to base, when you visit your home, or when you go back to your castle. You know that this is one exciting thing to always check. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Let me know if you're interested in this kind of system, or if you've seen other mechanics that work well in this sort of context. And as always, thank you for watching.